GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show where we're not just bullish, we're booking tickets to the moon and asking about return flights later. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton. It's Wednesday, May the 28th. Crypto market cap is only 6% below the December 2024 peak. I don't think people realize what is happening right now. We are 6% below the peak, and yet we are still in this like confusion of are we bullish or are we bearish? So this setup is way better than December, but we're basically almost at all-time highs. Bitcoin Vegas is happening right now. And I mean, the Bitcoin train just can't be stopped. We're going to dive into so much news around Bitcoin lending. We're going to talk about crypto narratives. We got one of our good buddies on the show today, Carl Vogel, general partner over at Six Man Ventures, one of the best VCs in the space. Carl also has something to tell you guys at the end of the show that he has been cooking and he just launched recently. So stick around to hear an exciting announcement from him. Before we jump in, I got to tell you guys, I told you guys this yesterday, and I'm going to tell you again, we just launched Milk Road Macro. I am so stoked about this. It is a new newsletter. We brought on Thomas Malloy, a vet journalist and market researcher with a great macro background. Check it out. Hit the link in the show notes every Tuesday, Thursday, 5 minutes in your inbox to keep you on top of what is happening in macro, which if you've been listening to the show a lot, you know that we believe macro moves markets and is one of the most important things that you need to understand as an investor, but it's very difficult to understand. And Thomas does a great job of explaining it in a simple way. Today's episode is brought to you by Ledn. Get cash without selling your Bitcoin. It's also brought to you by Meanwhile, Ditch Dollars, Insure in Bitcoin. Without further ado, Carl, welcome back to the Milk Road Show.
It is terrific to be back. How are you doing today?
I'm great, man. It's good to see you. Good to see you.
Likewise, man. It's been a while, and there's so much to talk about.
So much, yeah, so much. Okay, let's just start with how are you framing the market right now? What's your current, when you're explaining it to your friends, you're sitting at a bar, how do you explain the current market setup?
Yeah. My general take is, again, not financial advice as a registered investment advisor. My general take is there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. And the reason I say that is I was looking at Bitcoin dominance recently, and over the past year, it's gone up 25 to 30%, now being at 63% on Bitcoin dominance. And I mean, looking back, it hasn't been that high since 2021, right? So, I mean, Bitcoin clearly is an asset class of its own. We've never had a more bullish regulatory and what I'll say political setup. I mean, we have the president himself and his family empire setting up Bitcoin mining operations. We continue to see growth in the Bitcoin lending market, enabling users to borrow against their Bitcoin. And so I think generally the market, you're right, calling out macro as part of your sort of framing and the new product, because I think it's really important. Right now, Bitcoin's trading as a macro asset, but it's actually outperforming a lot of the macro assets, including the S&P. So clearly there's a desire for this asset, and especially with tariffs and what's going to go on, and if bonds go become cheaper, or are we going to have to print more and potentially increase inflation in order to cover that? I think people are just realizing that the U.S. economy, Trump does not want it to fail for sure, and he's going to do everything in his power to prop it up. But it will never be as sound a form of money as something that is scarce and finite, and that's the case of Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin is really doing an incredible job. I mean, to think that 6 weeks ago you could have bought it for $75K. And now we just clipped above 111, I think yesterday, in the span of 6 weeks. I mean, it's truly bizarre. And I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, there's always more good buying opportunities, but it was a generational buying opportunity for those who were active and realizing the longer term vision. The rest of the crypto market, look, is doing well. I just think that all the attention right now is on Bitcoin. It's a sound, secure asset. People are generally scared right now. So there's a lot of risk off behavior. Liquidity is drying up both on the private capital market side and the public markets. So you're seeing even great assets like Solana and others that are performing fine, but they're certainly not outperforming. And just because that Bitcoin dominance continues to accelerate. So that's kind of my quick high level take. What's yours?
Oh, wow. Look at this guy. He's getting ready to do his own podcast, asking me questions now. I fully agree with you on the Bitcoin side. It's Bitcoin's world right now, and we're all just playing in it. I think that I think that we are. My general take is we're still in a bull market. I am short term unsure though. I'm still unsure what happens in the short term. The key dates that I'm paying attention to are, I mean, I don't even know if I'm paying attention to the Fed right now because I just don't expect them to do anything anytime soon. Right. So I don't think the Fed does anything. I will be watching the Fed date in July very closely. I think the July symposium in Jackson Hole is a big milestone meeting for them, and we might finally get some signals, but I don't expect anything to happen at the June meeting. So not really paying attention there. I think tariffs, the market has priced in tariffs, so I'm not so worried about tariffs, but I am worried about the noise that will come around the end of all of these delays. Like there is this pushback on the tariff side, and I can't even keep track of like when each 90-day or 45-day, thing. There's the China deal. There's the EU delay. There's delays with a whole bunch of other countries too. So that kind of concerns me, and that's all going to come to a head likely in July too. So I feel very good about the next 4 to 6 weeks, and I could see a rip for Bitcoin. Altcoins, I think not so sure on that. Maybe some will go, but I don't think we're in altcoin season. I think we kind of just had an altcoin season, to be honest. We just had a mini altcoin season. We had a good run. Like we had a good run, and everyone's upset because we're not at all-time highs on altcoins, right? Yep. But like you got to remember, like ETH and Sol are up like 70% from their all-time lows just like a month ago. So like I think that's the way altcoin seasons go, right? You've been in this for a long time. Yeah. They are very fast and very short. And and they happen in a blink and then it's done. So I think we get more altcoins will rip, but I don't know that it happens this summer. That feels more like Q4, maybe Q1 is when really we go into euphoria, especially because I think we can get more liquidity by that point. I think it's also the big thing is what is happening, as you mentioned, with like Trump and Bessent have said they are going to grow their way. Like austerity is off the table. Yep. We're going to grow our way out of this. What does that mean? It means more liquidity. It means money printer goes on, whatever way they're going to do that. I mean, treasury buybacks, the SLR program, like these types of things. But I think it feels like a very, very bullish setup right now. I just don't know the short term. What's your time frame? Like, how do you think about the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, 12 months, very optimistic. But look, there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, one of the things I'll be watching for is we're ways out still from Q2 earnings. We're still called 8 weeks away. But if you're a company right now, you have AI on one of these driving forces that's radically changing, and you have tariffs, and it's like, well, should I build a factory here? Should I not build a factory? And the other thing is, let's say you decide to start building more in America, but what happens if the administration changes in 3 years and all of a sudden now like you just are going to be taxed a lot for your efforts? And so I feel bad for companies in this situation. I really think it's going to be hard for them to operate these emerging technological and geopolitical trends simultaneously. So I expect Q2 to be a difficult quarter. In fact, a lot of companies even said coming out of Q1, we're not even going to publish expectations because we don't know. And so I think it's going to be hard. So 12 months, very optimistic. I think for 3 months though, I don't know. I think you just have to be a long-term investor. Like if you're trying to play this thing up and down, my framing is, hey, if Bitcoin goes back below a certain price, whether that's, 100 or 90 or whatever that happens to be, it's like, great, this is time to start accumulating again. But other words, we're in price discovery. We're in truly unprecedented, valuations. And now it's just to see where the market goes and where the global liquidity goes.
Yeah, completely agree. It is something to be paying attention to right now. Okay, let's just rhyme off some Bitcoin news while we're on the Bitcoin topic. Listen to this news, okay? And some of this is from a few days ago, some of it more recent. The U.S. has said that David Sachs said that the U.S. could buy more Bitcoin. Trump media, I'm sure everybody knows this by this point, is going to raise $2.5 billion to buy more Bitcoin. I think that closes like today or tomorrow. It closes like this week, and then they're going to buy it. So they haven't even bought it yet. Weird that they made an announcement that they were going to buy $2.5 billion before they actually bought it. But anyways, GameStop going to buy $512 million. Strive is going to raise $750 million to buy Bitcoin. Metaplanet issued another $50 million in debt to buy Bitcoin. El Salvador continues to defy the IMF. continues to buy more Bitcoin. Good for you, El Salvador. Please keep doing that. And then the Bitcoin Act is actually hitting Congress next week. And Senator Loomis is in Bitcoin Vegas this week talking all about that. So we have like just it doesn't stop. And what's really standing out to me, and we were talking about this on a show earlier this week with Scott Milker, is the real trend right now around Bitcoin is the corporate buying, right? Like the government buying is not quite, central bank buying, it's not quite there. We all know that's coming, and it is happening. I'm not saying it's not happening, but it's not happening at scale yet. Or if it is, we just don't know and they're not announcing it, which actually probably might be a smart idea for some of these governments. But on the corporate treasury side, two things are happening. We see lots of corporations are buying Bitcoin just as a like natural investment, not as a like strategy, Meta Planet, GameStop, these companies where they seem to be doing it as this business model where you sell notes and then you buy Bitcoin, which is really like a leverage play to get more Bitcoin and believe in the long term of Bitcoin. What's your thought on these? One question I keep asking is like, is there systemic risk around all of these new players that are getting in and buying Bitcoin on leverage? Do you think that's a risk?
I think there are risk scenarios. And in fact, I'm even a little bit more concerned about people running this trade for other asset classes. So people are doing things for Ethereum. You saw Joe Lubin is now chairman of a new Ethereum-based entity, basically running the same strategy, buying Ethereum. There's now multiple ones, including Sol Strategies, that are doing this for Solana. And I imagine for other move chains and other chains, this is just going to be part of the default strategy, especially if getting an ETF takes time. This is a fast track, buy a company, run the strategy, as well as people just want leverage. Like a lot of people just want leveraged asset, let's say 2 to 5x exposure. And, right now I think the NAV premium on MicroStrategy is 2x. So in theory, you're actually getting a good amount of healthy leverage. So when does this start to break down? I was actually talking about somebody about this last week at the Solana conference, who's doing the same thing for Solana. Basically, MicroStrategy is running this with, I think, 5-year durated bonds. So where they start to get in trouble is, if the price of Bitcoin is depressed for a very, very, very long time, that is where they may struggle in the conversion from the bonds to the equity and actually start to have some insolvency issues. And again, this isn't an area where I'm an expert. So if I'm using the wrong term and it's not insolvency, it's another form of bankruptcy, don't quote me deeply, but it's really about time duration. And so Saylor can buy this now at 110 or whatever he's going to buy it at in the next week. He's like, look, I think this is going to 500 over the next 5 years, or $1 million, eventually by 2030, I think he's called. And so he's like, I don't care. Like, it's fine. I don't have this short term, I'm going to get liquidated if the price drops below any particular, let's say, threshold. Like many people who are borrowing against Bitcoin, he's just getting this long dated leverage. So I think it's pretty safe right now for what he's doing, if I understand the failure modes correctly. But I think these other assets like the Ethereums, the Solanas, it's not clear to me they're on the same long-term capital asset, lower volatility, high growth curve. Obviously, they can outperform Bitcoin for periods, but they also draw down much larger. And so I think all of a sudden you might be buying at a very high price, then the asset's trading at a much lower price. And so I think that's where you would start running into issues. But it's something we've even been talking about is, should we be getting equity, should we be getting brokerage accounts and start to look at these in more detail? And, it's funny, I don't think people, venture funds, private credit funds would ever be talking about these types of strategies, but here we are. And there's a lot of them that are being run. But I think you have to go with a trustworthy team and, executive team for sure, because otherwise there could be nefarious activity, which would completely destroy the value that's created. Yeah,
completely. And I think that's that's exactly my feeling right now is I don't have a lot of concerns about strategy. Proven, been around for a long time. But when I see so many new players coming into a space, my radar goes off of people are sniffing opportunity and they're just jumping on it, and they don't understand the complexity in order to do this properly. And so I could see at some point one of these Bitcoin treasury or Sol treasury or ETH treasury companies is going to blow up, and it's going to,
for sure. And they're starting later. Like Saylor's been buying.
That's the other thing. The cost basis.
He has a much lower cost basis. These teams starting now. I mean, there's definitely some risk that is being taken on. So I completely agree. So be safe out there. You know, leverage is great, but ultimately holding the underlying assets in a secure self-custody solution or with a secure provider is the best way to create long-term wealth. If I was advising somebody on the retail side, again, not financial advice.
Yeah. Let's talk about before I mention this, Patrick, I see you asking a question and I see a few questions coming in. Give us your questions. We'll ask Carl any questions at the end of the show. I want to switch to Bitcoin lending.
Yep.
This is something you and I were talking about before we recorded today. And I've been doing a lot of research and talking to different projects on Bitcoin lending because it's probably one of the most common questions I get right now from our audience is how do I lend against my Bitcoin, or how do I get yield? I mean, there's obviously different ways to access capital from your Bitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin lending. You were mentioning some news that happened this morning over at Cantor. What's your thought on Bitcoin lending? Yeah,
so Cantor Fitzgerald, I know the head of digital assets there. They have been longtime Bitcoin infrastructure providers and sort of financial experts. And so they already have a very large multi-billion-dollar lending facility where if you're a company, if you're a fund and you need to borrow against your Bitcoin, you can create a structure with them and basically borrow. And what we see now is instead of these sort of, executive to executive arrangements that are being created, now it's being opened up to a much broader audience. So for example, Maple is a platform, I think it's both on Ethereum and Solana. I know it's Solana for sure, maybe Ethereum as well, where now you can start to post collateral, including your Bitcoin, to borrow. And you start seeing this in Falcon X. So what we're seeing is people don't want to sell Bitcoin. Why would you want to sell Bitcoin, inherit a 20+% capital gains tax, if not more, especially those for the US? If you're one of these enterprises, we're talking about buying Bitcoin, if they view this as a capital asset, they're not going to sell it in 6 months. They're going to want to borrow against it to finance their operations. And so we're increasingly see this taking place. And my own personal retail strategy, that's how I've been playing, is continue to build up a base and, many assets, but Bitcoin being the largest and I'd say most important holding, and then borrow against it. Because I can borrow for, call it 8-12% on a platform. And I don't have to worry about a 20 to 30% capital gains tax that's being paid. So we've seen on the private side a ton of deals doing this that are retail specific. A lot of them in particular are focused on, I'm going to hold your Bitcoin in a wallet on the Bitcoin network. Like, I'm not going to reissue you something on some other side chain or some other network. It's like, no, this is a pseudo self-custody solution for your Bitcoin. And that we're only under certain conditions can they actually liquidate it. But as long as you keep your collateral up at a high enough loan to value ratio, you can just borrow against it in dollars and they help finance those activities. So I think this growing area of DeFi is going to make it radically easier for people to get in and start borrowing against their Bitcoin, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think as you made a really good point before we started recording, which was that we need to teach and educate Bitcoin holders on how to handle their Bitcoin moving forward. Yep. And I mean security, yeah, that as well. And we actually did a great episode about a month ago with Jameson, Lopp. So you go back and listen to that if you want to learn all about Bitcoin security. He's the OG in that space. But just on okay, so you've got Bitcoin, you've got one Bitcoin, you got half a Bitcoin, you got 10 Bitcoin, you got 100 Bitcoin, whatever that might be. Okay, what's your plan? Right? Yep. Like the never sell plan, I fully agree. Your plan should be to never sell. But then what? Like, what are you just going to hold it and then die one day and like pass it on to your kids? Yeah. I mean, like, I love my kid, don't get me wrong, but like, come on, daddy wants some payout during his life too. Right. So like this education here is really, I think, the next phase. And this is a great CTA into our sponsors for today's episode. Yeah. I did not set this up, folks, but I got to take a minute to recognize our sponsors who make this show possible, who are both going to give you an opportunity to access capital from your Bitcoin. We'll be right back. Selling your Bitcoin should be a last resort when you need cash. That's why there's Ledn, the trusted platform for Bitcoin-backed loans. You can unlock cash in as little as 18 hours with no monthly interest payments and no prepayment penalties. They've issued over $9 billion in loans and never lost a single Satoshi of client funds, even during the chaos of 2022. If you're a long-term hodler, this is the move. Get liquidity without selling at milkroad.com/Ledn. spelled Ledn, is the world's first licensed and regulated life insurance company built for the Bitcoin economy. They do everything in BTC. You pay in BTC, they pay claims to your family in BTC. You take out policy loans entirely in BTC when you need liquidity. Protect your family from life's uncertainty and a broken financial system. Build intergenerational Bitcoin wealth while the cost of living skyrockets in dollar terms. Plus, get all the tax and legal benefits of life insurance now in Bitcoin. Visit milkroad.com/meanwhile to join the waitlist and get early access to the world's first Bitcoin life insurance.
I can't hear you, Jay.
Oh, I was muted. I do this like once a week. Thank you. You were at Accelerate last week.
Yeah.
This is Solana's. We were chatting actually with Sam Andrew, another VC in the space, yesterday, and he was talking. Oh, look at this guy, guys! If you're watching video right now,
Accelerate.
Let's go.
Full American flag. Let's go.
Okay. Wow. I mean, you got to give it to Solana, like really leaning into crypto being built in America and leaning into the opportunity that is happening right now as a result of the Trump administration. And I mean, look at the glasses you're wearing. Give us the download on Accelerate for those who weren't there.
Yeah.
What were the takeaways?
It was a terrific conference. It was the first Solana conference in the US. And of course, previously, companies and teams wouldn't feel comfortable setting up conferences. So everyone in the industry had to go travel to remote parts of the world to attend these. And now we can do it in my own backyard. In fact, it was in the Lower East Side of New York. I live in Lower East Side. So I was like, wow, instead of getting on a plane to Dubai or to Singapore, I'm just walking 15 minutes to a conference, not even a train or cab or anything required. So it was I think everyone was really excited to be able to do something in the financial capital of the world, which is New York City. A number of major announcements coming out this last week. One was Solana released a new consensus algorithm. And that is like pretty fucking huge. I mean, you think about how like core consensus is the design of a protocol. And I think one of the things we see in Solana is there is this incredible group of engineers that are cracked out nerds in like high throughput performance and decentralized operation, distributed systems. And like Solana is an amazing test bed for them to take all these esoteric computer science algorithms and apply them to the future of finance, which a lot of it is taking place on Solana. So they changed the new consensus mechanism is called Alpenglow. And what this means for users is, and especially builders on Solana, is transactions finalize up to 100x faster than they did before. And the funny thing about this is somebody who's a professor in Switzerland, ironically, the university is called ETH Zurich. It's actually like a legitimate school, but it's funny. They were criticized.
But it's nothing to do with
Yeah, nothing to do with Ethereum. It's just like, I don't know what it stands for, but it's like ETH Zurich was criticizing Solana and the design because there were certain failure modes. And so then Tolly and the team reached out and said, hey, why don't you go help us improve it? These professors and their PhD students went to work. And lo and behold, now we have a brand new consensus algorithm implemented by the amazing team over at Anza. And so 100x faster finality, what does that actually mean? Mm-hmm. It means that, especially if you're trying to build an exchange or a business, you need to, if you're like receiving Solana to then do a transaction, like you're trying to send a fiat payment, you're trying to settle a trade, you might need to wait up to 12 seconds for this to happen because you can't give somebody else's funds away while you're still waiting for this to officially settle and get 32 blocks confirmed on chain. But now blocks will settle, I think it's like 150 in some cases, if not up to like max 500, 600 milliseconds. And so it makes it way easier for companies and teams building on Solana to actually create better user experiences. One of the amazing things, another really, probably the biggest announcement of the week, I'd say, is Kraken allowing their international users to trade equities like Tesla and I think Strategy and others on Solana. So on chain. So now if you're a user, you can get, what I've seen from like a thesis perspective is there's a convergence of banks, brokerages, and crypto exchanges. In other words, everyone's trying to move into different parts of the triangle. You saw Robinhood move into banking and ATM, distributions with literally people drive around cities giving you cash when you want it. You've seen Kraken now getting into brokerage. You see Coinbase getting into banking. So everyone's trying to move into these different areas because it's really the main way to grow. And so having this is is huge because it provides 24/7 flexibility for Kraken users to access and trade these. And we now create an on-chain 24/7 price discovery mechanism we didn't have before. So yeah, this is what I posted about it. Absolutely massive.
Is this live? Like,
yeah.
I
I need to double check. Here's the thing. I can't use it because I'm in the US, but B, I'm in New York. In fact, one of the tweets below that was like, before I can use Kraken as a New York resident, they're already issuing tokenized equities through their partner back. So I can't use it. I don't know if it's live, but there's a number of exciting things I understand in the Kraken roadmap coming up for this year. So definitely a company to be looking out for. If you haven't tried their product, it might be worth exploring further.
We got Kraken's founder and CEO coming on the show in a few weeks, actually. So we'll definitely.
Oh, you should definitely dive in deep.
The great take I heard on yesterday's show from Sam Andrew was that, and this just like picture perfect for me, was Solana, bad assets, great infrastructure. NASDAQ, great assets, bad infrastructure. Smash those together, and what's going to happen, right?
Internet capital markets.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
You can't use that term though because the Believe app stole that term recently.
Oh, did they?
It just gets so confusing now. Yeah,
I'm all about reclaiming.
You're not in the trenches enough, Carl. Anyway, no. but it is so true of like tokenized stocks, tokenized equities. Like this is like 24/7 trading of this stuff globally around the world is like the killer use case that we have ready. Like it's ready. We're like, yeah, hey, we can do this right now. And it's going to happen. You can see, I thought it wouldn't happen until after market structure bill, but it's already happening.
It's already happening.
And like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's live and I don't know how quick it's happening exactly in this exact moment, but like, I could see this absolutely exploding in the next year and being a massive narrative that nobody is really paying attention to in the crypto world. TradFi, I'm sure, is noticing it, but crypto, not so much.
Totally. And I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want to be accused of shilling portfolio companies, but one of our portfolio companies offers this as well through a different partner, Denari. So basically in their app, you can hold and send stable coins, you can hold and send crypto, and you can hold and send, actually you can't send anything, you just hold equities. And so to be able to have multiple asset classes in one place, it really makes it the premier financial solution for both your daily operations, daily spending. Oh, they have a card, daily spending, but also your long-term investing. So again, this convergence of banks, brokerages, and crypto companies or crypto exchanges, you're just going to continue to see that over the next couple of years. And it's the killer strategy for whoever at the highest levels can nail all three in a single platform. And I think a lot of it's, your point, is going to take place on Solana because it has all these cracked distributed systems engineers that are continuously shipping new updates.
Yeah, you're obviously very bullish on Solana, just what we're talking about.
Why? What would give that away?
Okay, if you guys, what we're talking about Solana. If you're bullish on Solana, which I know everybody listening to this show is, I feel like everybody listening has got bags in Solana, and I think you should. It's one of the best risk-adjusted investments in the space. But this past weekend, our pro team put out a report all about Solana DeFi, which I think is an undervalued area of Solana that not enough people are paying attention to, because if Solana wins and Solana rips, which it likely will, then who's going to win off the backs of that? Well, DeFi is going to win huge. And there is we all know the projects, Jupiter. You can read that report. We'll link to it in the show notes, and you can see what our team thinks you should buy within the Solana DeFi space.
Yep.
Okay.
We got to go to point on that real quick. Quick point on that.
Yeah.
So I think undervalued in terms of they're not on everyone's radar, but potentially not undervalued in terms of the fundamentals. So if you look at if you look at like a lending platform like an Aave or Compound, and you look at the price relative to the amount of liquidity that's there, the amount of TVL compared to Camino, or you look at some of the other like one-to-one comparisons, do some of that research and just see how under versus overvalued they are. And from when I was last looking at this, they actually might be slightly overvalued relative to the amount of TVL that they have in their ETH counterparts. But again, there's a lot of ways to value this. You can look at asset velocity and other things that say, hey, like there's all these legacy assets that are Aave that nobody's going to touch or use, versus Solana. It's like real-time money movement constantly taking place. But do your research, but very excited for Solana DeFi.
Carl, you're CTAing and promoting this pro report so well, because the pro report
Is that one of the
has
things
valuation metrics in it
There we go.
that compare ETH to Solana. So
There we go.
guys, if you're pro, go read the report. If you're not pro, go pro today and check it out. Okay, Carl, we got to go to, you guys have been cooking. You guys are always cooking over at Six Man Ventures. Yeah, take off the Solana glasses. Let's get Carl back. Oh, this is okay. Let's get in the trenches, Carl. You just launched a new podcast and you launched a meme coin. What's going on here? Give us the download.
Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about for a while and finally was able to pull the trigger. Basically, my general take is I love podcasts, but there's too many podcasts out there for me to consume. And so if I have this problem and my job is to be a professional investor consuming content, I can't imagine how hard it is for other people to do so, which is great where you guys have bite-sized pieces and pro services and more advanced things that make it really easy to get the digest of what matters most any given day. But I love the idea of like a live stream where you're actually interacting with the audience. And my general take is Solana and crypto more broadly has gotten this vibe of being the casino where it's all about trading and degeneracy, et cetera. And that actually is a good forcing function and creates awareness and excitement for new types of channels and products that are coming out. But there also needs to be really good content on the apps that people can use and engage with in crypto. And I said, well, if I'm going to be talking about crypto apps, and again, we have a unique view as Six Man Ventures investing at the application layer. I was like, well, why don't I do this on crypto native infrastructure? Like if I just run to Twitter or YouTube or somewhere else, am I actually in the trenches talking about crypto builders? Like maybe I should actually be using products built by crypto builders. And so it's a live stream on Pump.fun. In order to create a live stream, you need to launch token. So like the token is an interesting byproduct of this. But what they did is, in the past, the trenches have been, coin go up and then dev sells. And so all of a sudden the whole thing unravels. What Pump does now is you, as a creator, you actually get a percentage of trading fees. So I think so far, I've accrued trading fees from this trading on the open market. And now I don't have to sell any tokens. So you can see there, I think the channel owns 3% of the supply and I haven't sold a single one, but this thing's trading at 5, it clipped 10 for a period of time. And so this, when you look at new business models, like is the future of content going to be ad based? Like that's kind of an old model. We had a stop for advertisements in there and they're great ads, but still it's ads. It's a disruption to the flow of content. Instead, if somebody's bullish on Milk Road, well, how do they get exposure to you guys and grow with you? Well, tokens and coins, creator coins are the main way to make that happen. So I figured now's the time. Let's try it. And look, it might fail miserably. Like this isn't my full-time job. I'm not doing this to get rich. This is, I want to be in the trenches, reclaiming it from the degens for the builders and the users of crypto. So we have our first live stream today at 4 p.m. We're going to be talking a little bit more about Solana Accelerate, going one layer deeper than we did here. And the other thing I want to do is, if it's for builders, every live stream needs to have a demo. If there's not a demo on the live stream, then I'm failing the builders of Solana and crypto more broadly. So we're going to be having Baxis, which is a tokenized whiskey and spirits platform, demoing their product. And we're even going to be giving away a bottle of whiskey on it. So very excited for that. Happy to jump in anywhere else. But yeah, it's been a wild 24 hours beyond my expectations.
Incredible. We'll link to the show in the show notes so you guys can go check it out. I've never attended a live stream on Pump.fun, so I didn't even know that they had live streams and they were like offering, I guess, podcasts through that. Very interesting to see the way that they are. I mean, I think the truth of the matter is attention is going to be captured. We're going to capture the value of attention with blockchain tech. Like we all know that. We all know that's happening. It's already happening in unique ways with prediction markets. We're seeing it happen in unique ways with InfoFi, with SocialFi. So it's going to happen. My one question here is, so the token, the Trenches token, it's just a meme coin, right? It doesn't have utility. You're not trying to create a business around this meme coin. It's just a meme coin that shares the same brand as the show, I guess.
I think we'll have to share a little bit more at 4 p.m. today. But my general take is this is a coin for the channel. And there's many ways that can be used. It can be used to, for example, what if we had a demo day where founders can come up, pitch what they're building to potentially thousands of live streamers watching this channel, and the winner gets tokens from the channel. They get more, Trenches token. Well, that to me is creating utility around it, but it's, I'm not selling it just to like get profits. Eventually, if this thing keeps growing, some might need to be sold just to help finance some operations. But like my thing is, because of this new model, like just taking a step back, I actually gave a talk on this at Solana Crossroads conference in Turkey. The general thing is, if you look at Web2 today, you can get attention on TikTok and X and all these platforms, but you really don't make money. Everyone makes these off-platform agreements. Yeah. And, so if you look at it, people want to engage with apps to get fame or get fortune. And so Web2 helps you to get famous, but not get fortune on the platform itself. It's all off platform. You guys know this, right? Yeah, likewise, there's a lot of Web2 apps that help you get fortune, the Robinhoods of the world, trading platforms, et cetera, but you're not going to get famous on Robinhood. Like you have to go to X or somewhere else to go do it. So, I have this access of get fame and get fortune. And there's apps in both of these quadrants, but it's a separate experience. In Pump.Fun, it's the same. You're making value on the platform itself. So as this token trades, the channel is getting money, but it's also going viral and getting more attention and getting fame because people want to buy into this community and buy into this token. So it's the first time where fame and fortune are on the same platform versus having to monetize or grow in separate directions. So that's the general thesis, how Web3 social could truly revolutionize the media business. And this is an experiment, and we're going to go into the trenches.
Good for you for experimenting, my man. Love to see it. Love to see. I did not have on my bingo card this year that you guys were going to launch. A podcast doesn't surprise me so much, but a meme coin. And it just, I think the main thing is we all got to get in an experiment here. And the only way you learn is by experimenting and testing things, not financial advice. Obviously, if you guys are going to go invest in the Trenches token, you should do so by doing research and being thoughtful about it. Right. So be aware, but very, very interesting to see what you guys are doing. Excited to see where this goes.
It's funny. I didn't think we would be launching a token either, but that's the way crypto is. Like crypto, the token is a proxy for attention. And so let's jump in. So very excited for that.
It makes me think as well about Rect Brands and OSF over there just put out a tweet recently about what he's calling brand coins. And this feels like, content coins, brand coins, there's all these terminologies and like you can just get totally lost in it. But this concept of like, if there's a brand that you love and you want to support them, well, yeah, you can buy their products. But what if you want access to their upside? Yeah, okay, you could buy their stock if they're a public company. But a lot of the brands that people love now are smaller, built at home, Etsy type brands, right? You can't go buy their public stock. They don't want to, and they don't want to go public. They don't need to go public. Like that's not their business model. So I could see there's just that. What I am feeling right now as a whole, as I step back, is I am feeling like there is a resurgence and finally a moment for Web3 crypto. Right. For the stuff outside of like the finance stuff, like Bitcoin and all of the financial backing that blockchain is going to provide to TradFi. That train is going, right? Like get on or see you later in 5 years and you missed it. Right. Yep. But the Web3 side is still like, we're still experimenting. We still haven't seen. Let me ask you a question. Kyle had this take recently that he doesn't think we will get a ChatGPT crypto app, like a mainstream mass crypto app. He's not so sure we're going to have that anymore because we used to talk about that a lot. Like there's going to be this, mainstream crypto app. A lot of people thought it might be gaming. We had Axie Infinity for a moment. That did catch a lot of steam. A lot of people thought it'd be NFTs. We all know how that ended. You're deep in consumer. Do you think we'll ever get a mass mainstream crypto app?
I think it's a multi-decade journey. And if you take gaming as an example, when gaming first came out, I mean, it was for nerds, and it was like these things were very hard to use and very expensive at the time. And it took decades to actually continue to reduce the cost of these platforms, reduce the cost of game design, to now make games and make it easier to buy and access these games, to now where gaming is ubiquitous and everywhere. But it took many business different platforms and business models to actually get to that point where now gaming's everywhere. So I think we will. I would never say we wouldn't get there. They say, hey, is it going to happen this cycle? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of compelling things being built, but I don't think it's going to go to the size of ChatGPT. I mean, that would just be, it's what, how many users do they have? Like
I don't even know
million
anymore.
MAUs or
hundreds of millions,
crazy number.
Yeah.
I mean, we're certainly, I would say, not going to get there this cycle, but that doesn't mean that we're not successful at the same time. Yeah, it's your point. I guess how much, I've been pretty active on Twitter. I hopefully have some good takes in between the ship posts. Guess how much money I've made from Twitter over the years?
Oh man, $100,
Zero.
$100.
I've literally not made a dime from Twitter all this time.
Yeah.
And like I've made this, well, not me, the channel, like I'm the channel, but like we are the channel, like has made 5 digits in a little bit over 10K so far in creator fees. It's all transparent. You can see it. I think it's like 12K now in fees. And so when you talk about enabling these smaller creators, if I was to go start a podcast from ground zero, I'd have to slave for views. I would be worshiping viewers and subscribers and all these weird mechanisms to try to promote some algorithm. Instead, hey, this is it. This is the platform. Here's the token. Trade it if you want. Here's who I am. I'm authentic. I haven't sold any. I didn't tell anyone about it. And people want that. People want the authenticity. They're tired of people trying to play these social media games that are being built. And so you could actually finance a real podcast and a real business on crypto rails. And that, I think, is the big opportunity. It's kind of like when people say, hey, pump.fun and, Hyperliquid, these things are extractive from the community. And it's like, we actually want businesses to be able to be built, like real businesses built on crypto rails. That's the goal, because that's how you start getting more and more companies that are being created. So I think this is going to enable a lot of creators to grow brands.
Let's be clear here. Who is extractive is not the platform, right? I mean, look, you could get into the semantics of the business model of the platform and say that maybe certain parts are extractive, but look, these are new businesses. They're just trying to figure it the fuck out and trying to thrive. What is extractive is all the users and the speculators, and love it or hate it, that's what we got right now. But the only way to the path of true consumer apps is to, unfortunately, go through the mud and get there. So it's why you got to do your own research and be careful.
And there's gonna be a lot of gold nuggets along the way in that mud.
Yeah, a lot of gold nuggets. McDonald's. Okay, I like.
Dude, I could go for some.
I could go for some nuggies.
Yeah.
Carl, great to get you on the show again, my man. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us today. Good luck into your first show.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It's terrific to catch up again. And I love doing the live stream format. Maybe next time I come back, we can even get some more questions from the community, because I love.
Oh yeah, let's do a question. I always forget the question.
Let's see if there's something here.
What do we got here? Sell in May. In your opinion, is the sell in May and go away thesis likely to hold in this cycle, or has this probably changed now due to macro events?
Look, I think there's always going to be less liquidity over the summer. People are more risk off in the summer, but I think that's my general framing is, there's probably going to be less activity, but it doesn't mean that things are going to go down in price. Just less activity, less speculation and hype in the summer months. People are going on vacation. People want to be risk off. But look, if you're looking for an opportunity to sell some and get off the table, I wouldn't say now is a bad price. We're close to all-time highs. Like, it wouldn't be a bad decision. But if we do get some tariffs, figure it out, and it starts running, are you going to have regret about that? And so I think rather than, again, selling, maybe there's an opportunity to borrow or other ways where you can stay long-term exposed, but then still finance a lot of your other life in other ways. Okay,
one more question here. Who are the winners for ZK in crypto?
No one so far. We've looked at a lot of ZK companies, and I truly believe in the technology. I truly do, for privacy, for scaling. But we had the opportunity to invest in some of these private rounds of ZK infrastructure, and there's just not the demand. I mean, their demand is a bunch of ZK L2s that aren't really being utilized at this point. And so I think the technology is too early. It's still too hard to process even basic math. Like, doing addition and subtraction in ZK is hard. Doing multiplication is extremely hard and takes a long time. So the amount of compute that's required, we're not there yet for mass market adoption of ZK, in my personal view, unless you do it hyper centralized. But to do anything that's kind of remotely decentralized, it's not there. So we will have winners, but I don't see any in the near term happening.
Yeah, I will completely agree with those takes. Carl, Great to get you on the show again, my man. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot, Jay.
Thanks everybody for listening in. Remember, none of this was financial advice. This show is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I'm not your financial advisor. Carl is not your financial advisor. If you want a financial advisor, you should go get one. If you don't want a financial advisor, you should freaking do your own research and take time to think for yourself. And you should always make sure that whatever you invest, you are prepared to lose, because investing is difficult and it's risky. If it was easy, everyone would do it and we'd all be millionaires, but we're not. But we're going to get there someday. So stick with us. And if you want help, make sure you check out Milk Road Pro. It'll get you access to everything you need to keep on top of the markets, get the signal within the noise. Thanks so much for listening, folks. Have a wicked awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow.